Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Share this everywhere. This is absolutely huge. The Supreme Court is taking its time. The Supreme Court is taking its time and continuing to delay a decision on immunity regarding the D.C. trial. The longer the Supreme Court takes its time and delays an ultimate ruling, allowing Trump to appeal to federal court rulings, the easier it is for President Trump in November, after November of 24, when he regains the Oval Office, to do away with the special counsel. Again, this is just 1 hour ago. Chief Justice gives Jack Smith, Justice Roberts gives Jack Smith 1 week to respond to Trump's immunity claims. So the Supreme Court gives Smith 1 week to respond. This is after telling Jack Smith they weren't going to really look at the case at all. It wasn't important to the Supreme Court. Hit subscribe to this channel. This is absolutely huge. You will hear Trump, but you will also hear constitutional scholar and attorney and law professor, George Washington law professor, Jonathan Turley, in a couple of seconds. But this is absolutely huge because the schedule was not particularly speedy. The schedule the justices set was not particularly speedy, meaning there was already a March trial that is now postponed indefinitely. If they continue to postpone and give the special counsel a week to reply and then take several weeks to reply to appeals, then you have Trump, after November of 24, doing away as president with an obviously partisan, overtly political special counsel. This has nothing to do with the rule of law. The Federal Bureau of Investigation found there was no effort by Trump or anyone around Trump to commit any crimes. So this is absolutely huge. Hit subscribe right now. You will hear right now the law professor, constitutional scholar, Jonathan Turley, really amazing man, explain exactly why, in the long run, Trump benefits from these delays. So just today, the Supreme Court delayed the D.C. trial, which has no date. It is postponed indefinitely. This is huge, and we'll get to that, and we'll get to Trump speaking about this and other topics later in the live stream.
That ultimately could reach the U.S. Supreme Court. Jonathan Turley with us now. Sir, if you can hear me okay, does this surprise you, yes or no?
No, this is the result that some of us predicted. The panel was very skeptical of these arguments. What former President Trump was advancing was a sweeping and unprecedented claim of immunity. And it's not surprising that this panel rejected it. The interesting thing about this opinion is that they cite the impeachment and quote from it as saying that the president sought to incite this effort to overturn the election. And that's going to go now forward. The most practical impact of this appeal was indeed the delay that it caused. It was very important for the Trump team to try to push this trial back. They succeeded in doing that, as you mentioned. Now, the next stage here is that they can ask for review of the entire court in what's called an en banc petition. That has to be reviewed and voted on, even if they reject it, and that'll take some time. And then they will no doubt appeal to the Supreme Court, which is now has a considerable stack on the desks of these justices, including election-related cases.
Jonathan, if you're like in an emergency room, they have triage and the most serious cases go to the top. Is that how the Supreme Court would consider these cases?
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. It's an excellent question, Dana. The interesting dynamic about this case is that Jack Smith has been telling every court it's absolutely urgent that we move this trial forward. And he was made it clear that he wants this president tried and convicted before the election. The Supreme Court clearly didn't share that urgency. It refused to do that. And so it's not clear that they're going to feel even greater urgency now. The March date is not on the calendar anymore. And as we move towards the election date, it gets more controversial to have a trial of this kind within a couple of months of the election. Yeah. So we'll have to see how the Supreme Court deals with this. The outcome is not surprising for many of us, but what remains the unknown is how this will change the schedule and dynamic of the case.
So thank you so much, Paul Bartlett, for your super chat. As always, I cannot thank you enough. And DVK, thank you for letting me know that thank you for letting me know that my mic was off. But this is huge. I apologize. I love the message, but that hurts the stream. So this is huge for a number of reasons. As you heard from Jonathan Turley, we'll hear it again, and we'll hear another interview, several other interviews with constitutional and legal scholar Jonathan Turley. This is a partisan special counsel. This has nothing to do with the rule of law. This is Democrats are obviously trying to convict Trump before November, thus moving people away from Trump. The mic is still off? No. Can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen? Let's start with that. So, audio is back. Okay, great. So this is really, really important. Let's go ahead and just listen to him again. We'll talk about this again. Sorry about the, you know me, there's always an audio issue. And so, let's listen to this again.
Direct appeals from the Republican nominee leader that ultimately could reach the U.S. Supreme Court. Jonathan Turley with us now. Sir, if you can hear me okay, does this surprise you, yes or no?
No, this is the result that some of us predicted. The panel was very skeptical of these arguments. What former President Trump was advancing was a sweeping and unprecedented claim of immunity. And it's not surprising that this panel rejected it. The interesting thing about this opinion is that they cite the impeachment and quote from it as saying that the president sought to incite this effort to overturn the election. And that's going to go now forward. The most practical impact of this appeal was indeed the delay that it caused. It was very important for the Trump team to try to push this trial back. They succeeded in doing that, as you mentioned. Now, the next stage here is that they can ask for review of the entire court in what's called an en banc petition. That has to be reviewed and voted on, even if they reject it, and that'll take some time. And then they will no doubt appeal to the Supreme Court, which is now has a considerable stack on the desks of these justices, including election-related cases.
Jonathan, if you're...
So this was the worst thing to happen today to the special counsel, to their case, okay, against Trump. So this was the worst thing to happen. They need to expedite everything. The Supreme Court has to weigh in on the Colorado ban, which it'll be a 9-0 decision. Huge victory for Trump. And they also have to weigh in on a whole bunch of other cases, okay? Today, and Paul Bartlett, thank you again. This greatly, greatly appreciate. DVK, thank you. I can't thank you enough. This is huge. This is absolutely huge today. They did not respond to the federal court decisions, the Supreme Court, by expediting anything. They gave Jack Smith a week. Okay? They gave Jack Smith an entire week, which was absolutely huge. Because now, when Trump regains the Oval Office, the special counsel is part of the executive branch. You could just dismantle it and do away with it, which is what should happen anyway. It's an obvious attempt. He obviously did not try to compel anyone to commit crimes. The notion is an absurd notion. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that Trump, even though nobody was armed and people were let into the building by law enforcement, which was the Tucker Carlson footage, and it was a chaotic event that took place every single day that summer. When I agree with why people demonstrated that summer, but I don't agree with the $1 to $2 billion in property damage and lives lost, you'd have to be really an imbecile to think that Trump wanted to overthrow the United States government and wanted people to commit these crimes. That's the last thing Trump wanted, and he used the word peaceful, and he said respect law enforcement. The problem is they didn't listen to him, not that they listened to him, that they didn't listen to him. But let's continue.
Like in an emergency room, they have triage and the most serious cases code at the top. Is that how the Supreme Court would consider these cases?
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. It's an excellent question, Dana. The interesting dynamic about this case is that Jack Smith has been telling every court it's absolutely urgent that we move this trial forward. And he was made it clear that he wants this president tried and convicted before the election. The Supreme Court clearly didn't share that urgency. It refused to do that. And so it's not clear that they're going to feel even greater urgency now. The March date is not on the calendar anymore. And as we move towards the election date, it gets more controversial to have a trial of this kind within a couple of months of the election. Yeah. So we'll have to see how the Supreme Court deals with this. The outcome is not surprising for many of us, but what remains the unknown is how this will change the schedule and dynamic of the case.
Mm-hmm. Just to keep the flow chart going here, aren't we 48 hours away from oral arguments before the High Court on a different matter? And that is the Colorado ballot decision, where a group of unelected judges decided to keep Trump off the ballot. That's Thursday, right?
Yeah, we are. And that's going to be a huge case. Many of us believe the court is going to set aside the Colorado decision. The question is whether the three justices on the left will join in what most of us hope will be a rejection of Colorado. This is a very dangerous theory that recently came into vogue. I don't believe that it's well-founded historically or textually. But the question for Chief Justice Roberts is likely to be whether he can eke out a unanimous decision. Because if the court ever spoke with one voice, this is that moment. This is the moment the court's designed for. And so the court's going to look at three questions. And I think Roberts is going to try to hone the questions to try to garner that type of broader support.
Was there a better legal argument that the Trump team could have put forward in this case?
Well, they went for the whole Megillah here. I mean, it was very surprising because the question of presidential immunity has been batted around in the Supreme Court for decades. The most important period involved President Richard Nixon. And the court did recognize presidential immunity, but it also had some caveats, and we saw those exceptions come to bear. For example, Bill Clinton lost another sweeping argument over immunity. And what the panel here is saying is that it just won't go there. It's not going. It basically said, look, whatever immunity you had as president, you don't have it as a citizen, and so you are now Donald Trump, not President Donald Trump, and we're not going to extend this immunity to you. They'll get a lot of support for that. The question, however, is whether the opinion goes too far on the edges. That could cause concern for some on the Supreme Court. They may want to tack back a little, even if they ultimately reject the ultimately accept the conclusion.
Well, sir, thank you for jumping on the
So, as you heard with Jonathan Turley, constitutional law professor. So, what took place today is that they denied to expedite. They denied the special counsel's request to expedite this trial. The special counsel, obviously, it's Biden's administration, wants to convict Trump before November. They obviously want to do that. Why do you think they want to do that? Obviously, I mean, again, you'd have to be a buffoon not to understand the politics behind this. Obviously, they want to convict Trump to help Democrats. They want to go after their direct political rivals, okay? Which is what they fear Trump will do to them. After winning, despite every single possible disadvantage, Trump is on his way to winning in November. Okay? And so they're going to complain if they get indicted. Oh my God, he's going after us. But when they indict him, it's the rule of law. Nobody is above, aside from Biden with classified data, and Clinton, who I think will eventually replace Biden with classified data, and Hunter with obvious bribery and graft schemes within emails that literally are asking him for influence that the New York Post published. And so, if you were the special counsel, you want everything to go as fast as possible. That's the point, ladies and gentlemen. This is huge. Most people aren't going to really look at this and say this is huge. Paul Bartlett, thank you again. But this is really, really huge. Okay? The longer this goes on, the easier it is for Trump to just completely dismantle the special counsel when he becomes president. He is going to regain the Oval Office. Okay? What Democrats are trying to do is in D.C., in Fulton County, the Georgia case is completely being dismantled. The Florida case with classified data has already been dismantled because Biden actually committed crimes, but they're not going to indict him, which shows that people are above the law. When Democrats say nobody's above the law, what they mean is only Democrats are above the law. So you have the Florida case, which they're not going to convict him. Even if that went before November, they wouldn't convict Trump because he was a president with the power to declassify. And all the other Democrats caught with classified data did not have the power to declassify. The D.C. case, what they're really, really focusing on, and today they yet again postponed the trial. Supreme Court yet again today postponed the trial giving the special counsel 1 week to respond. And that doesn't even count the appeals process that Trump has. Okay? So the appealing the two prior decisions, okay? From the federal, the lower courts. And then all they have is the hush money payment, which nobody cares about at all. And the FEC fined Clinton, not Trump. So you have the hush money payment, which really nobody cares about. You have the D.C. case, which was postponed yet again today. You have the Fulton County case, which Trump might actually attend one of the hearings pertaining to the relationship of the prosecutors. And then you have the Florida case, which Trump as president has power to declassify. But let's listen to Jonathan Turley again, different time, talking about all of this.
Jonathan Turley, constitutional law attorney and a Fox News contributor. Professor Turley, I want to ask you about Hunter in just a second. But first of all, to this action that Jack Smith, the special counsel, took earlier today, filing a petition with the Supreme Court to determine whether or not Donald Trump has immunity from prosecution. He's trying to keep his case on track for a March start, which is just a couple of days before Super Tuesday. What's your read of all of this?
Well, it's not that this has never been attempted before, but it is not the regular order of things. Smith had just filed, or this matter was just filed before the D.C. Circuit. Mm-hmm. And then he decided that he wanted to leapfrog over the Court of Appeals and go directly to the Supreme Court. The only reason for that is that he is really focused entirely on trying Trump during this campaign and trying to convict him before the election. The question is whether the Supreme Court's going to feel that that is such an urgent priority that you actually bring this case before Super Tuesday. Usually the Supreme Court likes to hear from multiple Court of Appeals. They certainly want normally to hear from at least one on these issues. Mm-hmm. And so they may not have the same sense of priority as Smith, who seems almost obsessed with trying Trump before the election.
Is there any other reason other than politics to want to do that?
Well, there's a tactical reason. If Trump wins, he can pardon himself, and then Smith will never see a jury in this case. I mean, so if Trump does prevail in the election, if he's not convicted at that point, he can give himself a preemptory pardon. He doesn't have to wait for the trial.
All right. So let's get on to Hunter Biden. You wrote a couple of
he can also do away with the special counsel. So he doesn't even have to only pardon himself. The special counsel can he doesn't even need the special the special counsel can be completely dismantled. That's the point. That's the point. Let's listen to Jonathan Turley yet again.
To President Trump.
Well, it was not a surprise. Many of us felt that this was the correct decision. What the court did is it stayed with regular order. It said that, you haven't stated grounds why we should deny this defendant an entire layer of appeal. That's what Smith was doing. He was saying, I don't want you to allow Trump to have his case heard before the D.C. Circuit. Well, that has a huge impact on a defendant. That's part of the record that goes to the Supreme Court. There could be concessions made in oral argument. There could be mistakes made in oral argument. But more importantly, you have more eyes looking at this issue as these appellate judges state their view. So what the court did is it said, we're not going to treat Trump differently because he's Trump. And you haven't stated a reason why this has to be expedited. And so all Smith was saying is that, look, this is a really, 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 really important case. And what the court was saying is that, all right, well, why, if it's important, why shouldn't we take the time to make sure we get it right?
Yeah, well, see, exactly. I mean, the one argument was because it's important, we should rush this through in a blur. And Trump's argument was because it's important, you want to look at it more carefully. I mean, wouldn't that be the natural thing? In addition to what you've said, which is the natural process that everyone gets to go through the appellate court. The Supreme Court sees the issue mature, if you will, and then they hear those other issues and thoughts, and then they'll make a decision if they have to. But wasn't it obvious at this point? Didn't this really kind of highlight the partisan nature of what Smith is doing here?
Well, I mean, the whole argument that this is so important, you should have less judicial review, really didn't sit well, obviously, with the court. They didn't share this sense of urgency, but more importantly, knocking out an entire level of review for a defendant is no small matter to that defendant. So I think that they did stick with regular order. Now, is this going to upset the plans of Jack Smith? Yeah. I mean, if you crunch the numbers on this, it's not good. I mean, so you now have an oral argument set in January. Even if they put this on the rocket docket and get out a decision in a week or two, Trump can appeal for an in-bank review, which is the larger court. They have to file those briefs, and it has to be reviewed by those judges. That's
right.
Pushing you into February.
Right.
Then Trump is allowed to go to the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court sticks with regular order, that can take months.
Yeah.
So the March date is gone in all practicality.
Right.
But so too may be the chances before the general election.
Well, again, this is
So that's huge, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely huge. So what took place today was yet again another huge victory for Trump in terms of delaying everything. You want to delay an absurd indictment to say that, first of all, it's interesting to me that Trump can be accused or indicted on a crime he didn't commit. He didn't incite anyone. He never told anyone to do anything. He never compelled anyone. Politicians have fiery, passionate speeches all the time. Chuck Schumer specifically singled out one justice. Tough it out. Thank you. Paul, thank you again. My goodness, Paul Bartlett in Australia, thank you. So, specifically singled out a justice, and then a person tried to end the life of that justice. So how on earth are you going to indict Trump because of the chronology of what took place? He wasn't even there. When the crimes were being committed, he wasn't there. He didn't tell people to commit any crimes. The Federal Bureau of Investigation already cleared him of any criminal liability. So I don't understand. The Federal Bureau of Investigation right here. FBI, no evidence, Trump. So you already have, how on earth, and I've shown you this, how on earth are you going to go to the, how on earth are you going to, this is a Daily Beast article, FBI's found no evidence Trump or allies organized rebellion. So how are you going to accuse Trump of influencing or inciting or compelling anyone? There's no evidence he organized anything. So where's the evidence? There's no evidence at all. They're simply trying to accuse Trump of what they see or what they think took place. They're trying to accuse Trump of what they think took place, not what actually happened. If the Federal Bureau of Investigation found no evidence of a rebellion, how on earth was there a rebellion? The fact that it even got to any federal court, the fact he was even indicted, is absolutely absurd. They keep making absurd leaps of logic, these grandiose leaps of logic. Well, he did this and he did that in a manner they would never. They give Democrats the benefit of the doubt. There is not the rule of law has been completely torn apart by these indictments against Trump, because they would never indict Democrats in the same manner. And we've seen now with the classified data debacle with Biden. But let's listen to Trump talk about this and other things. All right. Now for the fun part. This is interesting. He talks about these trials and might mention the special counsel and the two-tier justice system. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. And let's get started.
Very much, and I'm thrilled to be back with so many great American patriots, which is exactly what you are, who stand for our freedom, vote for our values, and pray to Almighty God. I want to thank a very good friend and one of the conservative movement's finest leader. He really is a leader in many ways. Tony Perkins, he's done a fantastic job. Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much. Let's also express our gratitude to the entire team at the Family Research Council for their 4 decades of outstanding work in defense of the American family and culture and God. And thanks as well to Representatives Jim Banks. By the way, Jim is running for the Senate, as you know, from a great place, Indiana. And he's essentially, you have anybody running? Where's Jim? I think he's not got anybody even wants to take him on. He's going to get it without a fight. Can you imagine? Where is Jim? Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. He's unopposed. I haven't even heard about that for a long time, especially from Indiana. But he's fantastic. And Ronnie Jackson. Ronnie, would you stand up, please? Ronnie Jackson. He's a doctor. He's an admiral. And he's a congressman. Where's Ronnie? We love Ronnie. Where is he? See? And he just, you didn't get a very good seat tonight. What's going on? He's fantastic. So he's like a highly respected in the military, an admiral. He was my White House doctor. He said, I'm the healthiest president in history. He said that if I didn't eat junk food so much, I would have lived 200 years. He was projecting. But he was a great doctor and a great admiral, and now he's a great congressman from Texas, and he won his race by 49 points. That's pretty good. And we love Ronnie. Ronnie, thank you very much for being here. And a very special woman, and a very brilliant woman. She helped so much with everything I've done. I think most of you would hear, she's very shy. She doesn't like being on television or anything like that. She's a shy person. Kellyanne Conway. Where's Kellyanne? Where is Kellyanne? She's so incredible. Thank you, Kellyanne. She's a great woman, actually. We had an incredible campaign 2016. We had an incredible campaign in 2020. What the hell happened there? We got more votes than teachers and the Little Sisters of the Poor. I blocked the IRS from using the Johnson Amendment to interfere with pastors' freedom of speech. Very important. Very important. I stopped Barack Hussein Obama's hateful and bigoted assault on foreigners. That's slightly less than $2 billion, right? And it's the first time I've ever said this in business. I said, you know, that sounds too cheap. It's usually that's too expensive. I said, that sounds too cheap. That's too inexpensive. So let's make it a little bit more. Let's spend a little bit more. We'll make it $500,000. And we got it built for $500,000, and we used Jerusalem stone. Jerusalem stone is a very rare and beautiful stone, unless you're in Jerusalem. And a friend of mine has office space at a beautiful office building in New York, and every time I walk in, he tells me about, this is Jerusalem stone. Look, the wall opposite the elevator. And he's so proud of the Jerusalem stone. He said, I paid a fortune for it. He's told me that every time I walk in, he tells me about Jerusalem stone. So what I did is I said, do you think we could do the whole building in Jerusalem stone? Absolutely. We have so much Jerusalem stone. I said, is it expensive? They said, not at all. It's cheap as you can imagine. And we did it in Jerusalem stone, and it is a truly beautiful embassy, and there's no reason for them ever to do anything. They all said they're going, but they never got there.
So I wanted to a lot of times I want to just go ahead and show Trump speaking in a manner that you will never ever see in news. So this is not the man that they claim tried to rebel against the country. It's complete and utter nonsense. Okay? He didn't try to rebel against the country. And you can see here, he loves the country. You can see that he loves the country, and he loves families, and he loves God, and he loves people. This is not the tyrant that they're trying to make him out to be. So that's really the point of this clip. But let's continue. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, but you're not going to... Here's the thing. You're not going to understand the nature of what's going on if you don't follow the Supreme Court rulings like today, or the delays with the Supreme Court. So I'll give you all of that, and I'll keep you up to date with everything on this channel, and give you, the analysis that you love. Everyone on the left or in media or in the mainstream is saying that he's going to be convicted and go to jail and prison. That'll never happen in a million years. Trump will not spend 1 second in jail or prison ever, because he didn't commit any of the crimes he's accused of. Okay? Simply being indicted by Democrats during 2024, right before November, doesn't mean that you're guilty. It means that they're trying to actually do what they accuse Trump of doing. They accuse Trump of interfering. No greater example than Democrats. Just like no greater example of classified data debacles than with Clinton, with servers storing top secret intelligence that it's only illegally transferred there. And I think Hillary Clinton will replace Trump. Replace Biden eventually. And then you have Biden with what took place regarding the special counsel not indicting him because of his memory. Okay? They get away with everything. Democrats, they definitely don't care about the rule of law, because the rule of law doesn't apply to people like Biden, for example, or Hunter, or Hillary. And I think Hillary Clinton will eventually replace Biden. I think that I've been saying to you that he's going to be replaced since day one. Now, the New York Times and others are talking about that openly. Okay? I told you a long time ago, not that long, that that Trump would defeat Clinton in 2016. I do think Hillary will be opposite Trump in 24. But I've been saying that Trump is going to win, at least on appeal, But he will defeat all of these indictments and regain the Oval Office. And he's heading that way. He's going in every poll. He's almost every poll he's up. By the way, at 10 p.m. tonight Eastern, I will have a live stream. So be here tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. But, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, is this the man that tried to overthrow the country? I don't think so. So let's just continue. This is actually a really nice, pretty good speech. But let's continue, and we'll be here tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern.
One year ago, in a victory that conservatives had been seeking for exactly 50 years, but you have to be able to talk and you have to say exactly that. They are.
I'm right now. Schumer is
A group of people that are willing to do things that nobody thought ever would be acceptable. In other countries, many other countries, I made, so it's an honor. Through 4 magnificent years, I was proud to be your relentless champion for freedom, for life, for liberty, and for the great biblical traditions of Western civilization. And that's what it is. These are great, great traditions. I was honored to get up every single day and do battle on your behalf. Oh, I did battle. You probably read about some of those battles. I'm still doing battle, doing more battle than anybody even understands. But I wanted to and had to stand up to the communists, the Marxists, the atheists, and the evil and demonic forces that want to destroy our country. They're destroying our country. I took their fire and I did it gladly. I'm protecting the people in this room. I'm protecting the people of this nation. And I have to tell you, it's not easy, but it's something that's such an honor to be doing. It's no wonder. Thank you. It's no wonder that this very sinister opposition is now tearing down every law and institution to try and stop us from vanquishing them from power forever. As you know, crooked Joe Biden and the radical left thugs who have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading political opponent, and leading by a lot, including Obama. I'll tell you what, you take a look at Obama and take a look at some of the things that he's done. This is the same thing. The country is very divided. And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. We beat Hillary Clinton. Now, you know, I used to call her Crooked Hillary. I'd say Crooked Hillary, but I took that name away from her. That was a great day. About 2 months ago, I said, you know what? Because I don't like using names on people, doubles. I think we have a lot of words out there. So now I call her Beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. And rather than Sleepy Joe, we call him Crooked Joe because it's a very appropriate name. So that was a good day for Hillary. I think she was very happy with it. But what they're doing is high-level election interference. That's what it is. They're interfering with our elections, just like they stuff ballot boxes, just like I read where people love my policy, but they don't like me. I think they like me. What's not to like?
Record low poverty in 2019 under Trump. Okay? Record low poverty in 2019 under Trump. Record highs in household median income. Okay? Inflation, less than 3%. Now it's continuing to go up. Check the inflation numbers. Interest rates, you could buy a home for 3% interest rate mortgage as opposed to 7 to 8% in Biden's America. Real wages were up under Trump. Real wages are down under Biden. Okay? And we had the Doha Agreement that Biden completely botched. It was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. A May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. May 1st, okay? That they were supposed to remove Americans on May 1st, not that summer. And Biden didn't want to abide by the agreement. So that's why there was chaos and mayhem. It was an agreed upon date to withdraw Americans from the longest running counterinsurgency conflict ever that Biden and Kerry and Clinton and Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld and others got them to. It was the people who despise Trump. It was the people who don't like Trump who sent Americans to the longest running counterinsurgency conflict ever. Okay? But you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where we had the first president step foot in North Korea. Trump was a great president. First, gave more money to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, made the funding permanent. Signed prison reform legislation. Moved the embassy to Jerusalem, very important for me or people of my background. And so, did a lot of great things. Sided with, Trump defended Asian American students against Harvard. In a discrimination case, his DOJ defended those students. I mean, we can go on forever, and he's right. What is there not to like about Trump? I swear to God, I don't get it. And every time don't ever ask anyone who's a morally superior, highly educated, liberal Democrat, don't get into it with that person, because you'll just get this like frenzy of discontent and vitriol and venom. But they'll make this absurd leap of logic. Well, he did this, he did that. No, he didn't. He didn't do any of that stuff. They'll make absurd leaps of logic because they like his policies also. That's the thing. We had record low poverty and record highs in household median income and record lows in unemployment with inflation low and interest rates low. What's there not to like? Be here tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, everybody. Paul Bartlett, thank you again. Let's continue and wrap this up.
I think they like me. It's not just about policy. Got to have something else, right? But I think they like me, and I think that I love them. I love the people of this country, and they've gone through a lot. This last period of time has been excruciating. In South Carolina, Ron is in 4th place now. I'm leading by 35 points, but you have a senator, you have a governor running from South Carolina, great state. We're leading by a lot. But Ron has actually dropped to 4th place, and he's dropped to 2nd place in other states, and it's pretty amazing what's happened. It's a beautiful thing to watch. Oh, I shouldn't say that. We have religious people. I should not be saying that, right? But religious people want to win. We want to win. And we want to win because we're going to do a great job for the country. We have to finish what we started. But most importantly, in just about all of these polls, that we're beating Biden by a lot. And it was a big story today. A lot of great stories being written. And do you remember in 2016 and 2020, I talk about the polls, but only if I was doing well. If I was doing poorly, I wouldn't talk about it. But we never had a period where we were doing very poorly, I will say that. I wasn't running, or if I wasn't running, or if I was in 5th place or 4th place or 3rd place or 10th place, none of this horrible election interference would have happened. It wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't be going through any trials and tribulations. I wouldn't have had the mugshot. I wouldn't have dated it. That shot has been something, hasn't it? They have sold more T-shirts than any T-shirt ever in history. They're all over the place. I see pictures of people that are walking the streets of New York. Even, I must say, some of the illegal immigrants that came in. More illegal immigrants. They've got my mugshot on. That thing, I don't know how they make these things so quickly, but they do. But we become very much a banana republic with what they're doing to our country. We're like a banana republic. We're like a third world country. We did great in 2016 and we won. We did much better in 2020 than we did in 2016. And McLaughlin, they told me that if you get 63 million, which is what I got in 2016, if you get that, there's no way you can lose. We got 12. Ask me a question. I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer that. How do you think we do in that election? So we're going to have a little bit of a fun with that, I think. He's going to get to the starting gate. But these Marxists and Stalinists and the administration got a Washington, D.C. jury to convict 5 pro-life activists who are now facing up to 11 years in prison for obliterate the deep. And I'm going to do this. We fired Comey, we fired a lot of these characters from the FBI, but boy, that deep state is deeper than we thought. Then we had COVID come in, and we had our focus. We wouldn't let them do that. The horrible destruction of lives and the horrible, what this did to the and that war would have never happened had the election not been rigged. Dominant within 7 months, dominant. We had total energy independence. We were only taking our energy. I was filling up the national reserves, got it full. Then he starts taking it. Now it's at the lowest level it's ever been because he wanted to get it for automobiles so that people would get a little bit cheaper gas so they could try and win an election. That's not what the purpose of that is for war. The purpose for war, and it's almost down, it's almost dry right now. It's never been at a level like this. We'll take care of that, but we will, we were ready to make so much, and we were going to supply oil and gas to Europe at levels like nobody has ever done. And we were in third place. When I took over, we were in third place, and a deep third. We were quite a bit away from Russia, and then Saudi Arabia was at the top. And the day that I left, we were substantially more than Saudi Arabia. And we would have been substantially more than that. We have more than anybody else. We have more liquid gold, beautiful term, because that's what it is. It's gold. And we have it and other countries don't. But think of it, we have more of it than Saudi Arabia. We have more of it than Russia. And we were going to double up, be double the size of what we had just then. And over a period of 2 or 3 years, we were going to be selling so much clean energy, clean gas. We were going to sell so much to Europe and other countries that we were going to start paying off our $35 trillion. It was all set to go, $35 trillion in debt. And we were going to start paying it off. We were going to do further tax reductions. We got you the largest tax reductions in history, if you know that, bigger than the Ronald Reagan got. We got you the biggest regulatory cuts in history. And that's what created the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. You look at the numbers. I watch them today. I was watching Larry Kudlow, and he was comparing us with Biden and with other times and other presidents. And there was nobody close to what we did. We did something that nobody was able to do. We gave big tax cuts, and yet we took in much more revenue. Nobody thought that was possible. We took in much more revenue with the big tax cuts. And companies were now incentivized to bring trillions of dollars back into our country. I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. Ron DeSantis is not going to do that. He fought it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Bartlett, thank you so much. I cannot thank you again. Paul Bartlett, thank you. To my super chat, thank you so much. It was a very, very huge day today. They delayed the DC case, and it's still delayed. The trial is delayed indefinitely, and this only pushes it out further, rightfully so. He didn't commit any rebellion. The notion he did is the most absurd notion. considering that people were let into the building and the Federal Bureau of Investigation found no evidence. No evidence. So how on earth is he even indicted for any of this? Hit subscribe. I'll be back 10 p.m. Eastern every day. Paul Bartlett, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. To my super chat, everybody here, thanks everybody. Be here at 10 p.m.